Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Awesome Workers, where we have today the wonderful Shaguffta Pattel, an accomplished wellness professional and PR director, and a dear friend.
Hello, Samir. So
Hello.
good to see you on a Sunday morning.
Yes, indeed. How are you doing?
Very well, as always.
So, there's something that I've always wanted to ask you, but I've never got to so far, I think. What is with the extra F and the extra T in your name?
And this recent, if you would have noticed, with numerology, somebody suggested that, and I totally believe in the energy of things because that's part of the work that I also do. Everything is energy. We know that, more and more people are becoming aware, more and more people are talking about this. Everything carries energy. So does names and numbers.
Hmm.
So when I speak of these things, I should also walk the talk.
All right.
Yeah.
So, can you give us a little bit of background of the Shagufta Patel before the extra F and the extra T and the one after? The,
So Shagufta has remained the same. The spelling of the word has changed.
but something,
But I also like the way it looks now. It just adds that extra little. It becomes like a conversation starter as well at times. you know. But when you talk about the background where I come from, well, um, born in the 1970s, early 73. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be 50 this month.
wow,
Uh, so it's my 50th golden year. And born in Bombay, raised there. We were growing up at a time when there were no internet, no mobile phones,
thank
nothing,
God.
right? Yeah. Uh, Come to think of it, there was no television either. Remember, television only came home when I was in my teens. So that was the era that we were growing up, right?
Black and
And
white movies, Day by
like
Day, Day by Day, and
big by big, and the
um,
only mode of entertainment was Doordarshan, the Sunday morning shows that we used to have. yeah.
Rangoli.
Tars, Rangoli, Chitrahat,
Yeah.
Tarzan on Sunday mornings, and those were the kind of days. And I was very fond of reading. That was the only thing I enjoyed. I loved reading.
Mm.
And while my cousins used to play, and I used to think, what a waste of time, who waste time playing, you'd rather sit and read books. So that was it. I was very shy, very timid, very naive, born in a very protected environment. I mean, raised in a protective environment. So life was just home and school. That's it. Yeah, nothing beyond that. And that's all I knew. And that's how it went on till I got married in 1992 at the age of 19. And by 20, I was a mother. By 24, I had both my kids. So life was going on. I was a homemaker raising my kids. I was in a small town called Belgaum, which I was happy. I liked the place. But unfortunately for me, it was a very toxic, abusive relationship, mental, physical, emotional, all kinds of abuse. I even left twice, came back, but then you know how it is, right? Especially in our Indian societies. Oh, it'll get better. Give it another go. You've got kids. You've got to think about them. Um, it will get better. In the hope of it getting better, I, kind of went back, and this went on for 17 years. Things never got better. It just got worse. And finally, at the age of after 17 years, at the age of 38, I decided that no more of this, and I need to change this now. Wasn't easy. Definitely, it was very, very tough because now, with no work experience, no bank balance, no direction of what you want to do, an entire workforce has entered into the workspace. You're 38, and so yeah, that's how I began.
Okay. And how did those 17 years prepare you for the road ahead after 38?
Um, you did. I wouldn't say they prepared me, or it just kind of reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. There were times when I was actually doubting myself. In those 17, I was like, what is it that I'm not doing right, or where is it that I'm going wrong? But no, it wasn't that. Uh, but it reached a point where I couldn't go on anymore. I remember very clearly. It was again my birthday, one of my birthdays. It was the month of August back in India. It was raining. I was standing at the my bedroom window looking outside. There's rain, there's the nice aroma that you always have, the rain. I could hear the thunder, I could hear the children playing over there, and I could taste my tears again. And it was my birthday, and the feeling was that of emptiness, feeling very, very empty. Like, what is life's purpose, or what's going on here? Because not only me, I could even see the kids at the receiving end of, or things not even being the way it should be for them as well. And then there was this one line that I had read in a book somewhere, that you can't serve from an empty bowl.
Hmm.
And that line just flashed across my eye, right? And that is exactly the feeling that I had at that time, was empty, the emptiness. And that resonated so much, Samir, that, I'm feeling so empty. So if I can't be the daughter I want to be, I can't be the wife, I can't be the mother I want to be, because my bowl is empty. I mean, how do I serve them? And I think that became the turning point, which gave me the courage, the strength to take this step where everybody was against me taking this decision, my family, everyone, because they were worried actually, that what would I do and how would I kind of, move forward. Because it's not easy if you've never worked before, if you don't have any work experience, if you have no direction, if you have, no bank balance, what do you do?
What did
So
you?
I think, yeah, so I think what gave me the courage really, or the strength really, was this one line, that you can't serve from an empty bowl.
Hmm.
And that literally kind of became my driving force. So up until that time, I think I had absolutely no guts or courage to take the step, or nothing that would have prepared me as well. Yeah, it was just that one line that turned the tables for me.
And what did you make your mission about? Did you make it about filling your cup all the time, or was it something else?
So first, obviously, it had to fill my cup, right? And a lot of people actually asked me, "Aren't you being selfish? As a mother, you taking this step, you're being very selfish because you're thinking about yourself and you're not thinking about the kids." And for me, it was like, "Hey, look, I've been thinking about them, and that's why I've been in this relationship for 17 years, right? The only reason why I was there was for them. But has it done any of us any good, right?
Hmm.
It hasn't." And also, this thing about this analogy where when we travel in aeroplanes, where they give that, in case of an emergency, put your mask on first and then, kind of tend to others around you, made absolute sense. That unless you are in the space where you are feeling all right and grounded and can think clearly, it's only then can you help others around you. And so when they said you're being a selfish mother, I said, really? I don't think so. I am kind of exhibiting something what we call as self love. And
Hmm.
there was another incident at that point in time that kind of crossed my mind, a memory, not really an incident, a memory. It was like when I was a small kid and I was sitting, and my mother and my grandmother were conversing with each other. So I was just there listening to their conversation. And my grandmother, she was telling my mom that her friend, like my grandmother's friend, she had lost her husband recently, and she had like 7 or 8 kids. And those times, people did have a lot many kids, right? And he was the sole breadwinner of the family. So now things got tough for her. And every morning, like 7, 8 kids, before they went to school, the mother used to serve them tea with a slice of bread. And when everybody left for school, the children, she used to sit and have one egg with a slice of bread. And she was also told the same thing, that what kind of a mother are you? You're serving the kids tea and with slice of bread, and you are having the egg. And she said, the egg is the only thing I can afford right now, one egg. And I have to look after myself if I have to look after them.
Hmm.
Yeah. So where am I being wrong here? So the point here is that it's not wrong to look after you if that puts you in a better position to be of service to others. So you have to fill your bowl here first. Make sure that you are feeling all right so that you are able to, you know, be of service to others. And others, it could be your children, it could be your family, it could be even at the workspace, right? Because you're going there to work, you're going there to serve as well. And if you're not feeling all right, or you're disturbed all the time, mentally, emotionally, in all ways, how are you going to perform? How are you going to give your best? You can't.
So at 38, you had no job, no work experience, and you were ready to walk out of a marriage and start afresh.
That's right.
Uh, did you have a plan, or there was no plan when you took a decision and said, "This is the first
There
step"?
was This is the first step. There was no plan at all. I didn't know what I would want to do with my life. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had absolutely no plan. But one thing I was very clear on at that point in time is that I need to take this step forward. I have to now, or else it's just going to get worse.
Was Dubai in the cards at that point of time?
Nowhere in picture. It came later. Nowhere. So right now I was just moving back to Bombay, to my family home, to my, my maiden home. My father had just suffered a brain stroke before I took this decision, in fact. So there was no way that he could support me as well. He never recovered from there. So he had had a massive brain stroke. Then he got an intestinal tumor. So it was just a decline. But when I took the decision, not that even I had, my father to support me financially. So that was the case. And I had no clue what I would do. Absolutely nothing. It was just that I have to take this step and move forward from here.
Did did the fact that your father had a brain stroke uh, play a role in your decision? The fact that life is short.
That was not the thought at all at that point in time.
Okay.
That was not the thought at all at that point in time. The only thought that came to me was, or why I took this decision, is because I saw the kids now, uh, also, like I said, at the receiving end of stuff, where if I'm there in the marriage for them, if it's not doing them any good either, then what am I doing here?
Hmm.
That was the only thought.
And your fountain of courage was from where? Because your dad is not keeping well. There's no finances. Was your kid supportive in this decision?
My daughter was, because she was 16. My son was a little confused as to what's happening. He was just 12 years at that time. Um, so it was not easy again for him. For my daughter, it was still okay because she understood what was going on. She was still a little bit older and much more mature. Obviously, my son was, he got even aggressive after so I had to kind of manage him emotionally as well. He was changing states, so I had to get him into another school. It wasn't easy, and all that going on. So it was tough. It was tough. But then also, you know, the decision making became a little easier for me because you, when you decide to break a marriage, Samir, there's never, I mean, it's not a happy decision, of course, right? So either which way, it is something which is not desirable. There is going to be a repercussion there. It's going to affect lives. It's
Yeah.
definitely going to affect lives. Yeah. But then when I look back now and when I think that how did I decide that I really wanted to do this? And what comes to me is that at one hand, it was the situation that I am continuing as it is in the relationship that I am, the way things are. And on the other hand, here I am moving out of the house. I know it's going to be tough. I know it's going to be very tough. But then, like if I wait, which of it again feels lighter for me?
Hmm.
And though this part where I have to move out is with a lot of challenges, it's a very uncertain future, or I don't know what lies ahead. Here, at least, it's like they say, living with a known situation, known devil is better than an unknown thing. But for me, it was clearly that this felt a lot lighter, that in spite of all the challenges and uncertainty that lay ahead,
Hmm.
the thought of taking that step made me feel better than staying in the situation that I was in. That felt really constricted. That felt really heavy for me.
Hmm.
And so going like an intuitive thing, that going by, okay, this is making me feel better. So even if I'm here, it's not doing us any good. The children are still not in a very, I would say, progressive environment. It's not doing them any good. And here too, it's not going to be easy for them as well, or for me. Yeah, but between the two two situations where both have some negatives to it, which is a better option to take. And so I went with that one, and that was the thought actually.
Hmm. The reason I'm diving a lot deep into this is because I'm sure there are a lot of women who are not taking the step, who are still remaining in this situation, and who's holding themselves back, and who is probably.
Yes, and I've had women come to me, privately and ask me this, and I have given them this similar or same kind of answers, and yet they kind of push back because it's just the fear of the uncertainty that lies ahead, the fear of the unknown. And what if things get worse, but what if things get better? You will not know unless you try. And there's also this um, one sentence, if I may say, that a lot of leaders, I don't remember who said it, but I'm sure it's one of the leaders who said it, that it's never the right decision. You're never going to know. You've got to take a decision and then you got to make it right, right?
Hmm.
So it's about that. It's never about, you will never know whether it's the right or the wrong decision, but you don't function from that space. You just take a decision and then you work to make that right.
Yeah.
And
And
how do you take that decision is, like I would say, and that is one thing that I've been following, and I see that it's working for me. So how do you take the decision is, just see if it feels you makes you feel better inside. So if you have two situations and you are at the crossroads, whether I go here, whether I go there, just see which of it makes you feel better, and that's the path to choose. So no matter how wrong it feels or seems, but if that makes you feel better, that's your path.
yeah. So, what I'm thinking over here is there are a lot of people who, especially in this generation where everything is quick, you know, reels and shorts and Insta and messages are all very quick, and you don't really give time to yourself to actually uh, be with an experience. And for those people, those who are not born in the 1970s, those who have not experienced living with a book and reading and immersing yourself in an experience, for them everything is short and quick and instant.
True.
And for them, if they start going with the message that you're sharing, which is if it doesn't feel right, then give it up. And they might do it at the slightest hint of, he just didn't look at me when, or he didn't call me on my birthday. What would you say to that generation as well?
So again, like you rightly mentioned, and it's way lot tougher for this generation than we had at Samir, with the kind of things that are going around over here. It's very important for the generation now. to kind of take time, like you said, they don't take time to connect with themselves. They don't take time to connect with their emotions and their feelings. It's very superficial for them at the drop of a hat. But it's also very simple if you just kind of tune into how you're feeling. And it's very simple. It's a skill that doesn't take much um, learning, because we all have emotions. There's no way that there's no person who doesn't have emotions. All you need is to become aware of it. That's it. It's just that developing that sense of awareness,
And
right?
how does one develop their sense of awareness? How do they develop it? In the sense you're saying, it is, when you say develop, it is about enhancing, right? It's about increasing. So how does one develop their sense of awareness uh, when it comes to?
Yes. So how does one develop the sense of awareness? Is again, it all comes back to working on the self. There's no shortcut to this.
Hmm.
So if you were to ask me what is a shortcut to this, there's no shortcut to this. You have to work on yourself. And there are different tools and modalities available. Do what resonates with you. Do what feels best for you, easiest for you.
Hmm.
But there is no way that you will get out of whatever you're going through. And there's a way to get out of everything. There's a solution for everything, but it starts with working on yourself.
Hmm.
There's no escaping it. There's no escaping it.
Yeah.
But I've tried multiple things in these last 12, 13 years. The only thing that works is that you've got to work on yourself.
That's beautiful what you said, and I know for a fact that professionally, what you also do is you help people with image transformation. You help people go from where they were to where they can be, uh, based on, and your journey is a beautiful example of how you have done a personal image transformation. You're living that. What made you step into this world of image transformation or personal branding, or what was the trigger point for you?
Yeah, so this is again a very interesting story. So after I came back, I didn't know, like I said, I had no direction. And the only thing that came to my mind first was that, oh, I have to start studying, I have to do, because what I was observing and seeing that even to get your resume across, the key word there was MBA at that time. I'm talking about 12, 13 years back. So with all the online sites that Naukri.com and stuff like that, the filter to even get past the stage, the initial stage, was the keyword MBA. So then I enrolled myself in an MBA marketing program. It was distant learning. God bless my aunt who supported me with the funds for it, and started from there. It was an MBA in marketing program. After a year of me moving out, the divorce was very simple because I had no demands at all. I was not contesting anything, nothing. So it was very, very simple for me. And after a year, I actually had to send my son back to his father, which was very tough. Another story altogether. But then after he left, I um, started looking for a job. It was very tough. I remember my first interview. I didn't even know we had to take a resume. Samir. It didn't even last for 2 minutes, my first interview. But every step of the way, I learned, okay, this is the mistake that I can't be
Hmm.
doing again. So every step was a learning curve for me. And then I got my first job, which was a job in market with the marketing team of GM Financial Services. And within 2 months of me joining them, they moved to a very far off location. So I was now traveling 5 hours a day, changing three modes of transport. It was nightmarish going to work, coming back, studying, home, and everything. I started looking for another job, and got lucky with Femina, so Times of India. Got a job with them, which was very close to home. It worked beautifully. So I was with Femina for 3 years, and within these 3 years, I finished my MBA in marketing. I topped my batch. I could have got a job in marketing, either with Times or any other company. And I was like, no, this is not what excites me. And again, my family was, "Are you crazy? I mean, now you spend 2.5 years studying so much, and MBA wasn't easy, right? And you've done so well, and now you don't want a job in my man, the job was at Femina was it could have gone on forever, but that was not my end goal and aim by then, right? So then the job in marketing, I said, no, this is not what I want to do. I mean, it doesn't, spark the joy in me. This is not what I want to do. So what is it that I want to do now, Shagufta? I had no clue, no idea what I want to do. I was walking the corridor of Times office. There were newspapers, right, that were kept. And there was this one ad that popped out. It said image consulting. And it was a concept that was just introduced to India about 6 months before that, right? Before I was seeing the ad. Introduced by Mr. Rakesh Agarwal. He had started the Image Consulting Business Institute. The first office was in Bombay. I went for the orientation. I liked what I saw. And it was a year-long program with classes every Sunday. Saturday, you had to submit a lot of assignments. I said, fair enough, because Monday to Friday I was at work, Saturday I used to do my assignments, Sunday back to class. And this went on for a year. And I learned the basic concepts of image consulting, which they taught us ABC. I've added two more to it because I feel it's not ABC, it's ABCDE. So
Mm.
that is what completely makes up your image. But once I finished that 1 year of image consulting, Samir, and so the ABC element that it taught us was appearance and grooming, body language, behaviors, and communication. And then the insight that I had was okay, appearance and grooming is still easy for people to change. It's outward, still easier as compared. Communication is also something that, with practice you can learn. But what people struggle with the most, and this is something that I was identifying in myself, that though my communication or my spoken English was very strong, because I've been grown up reading a lot of books, right? Shakespeare and Lytton. So my spoken English, though was good, I couldn't speak or I couldn't present because there was a fear that was stopping me, right? The lack of self esteem, the lack of confidence, the fear, all these were the limitations. And even in office, I could see that people who have been working for so many years, 10 years, 12 years, and they had certain desires and dreams, and yet they couldn't move forward because of certain limitations that were stopping them. And that got me thinking that, well, there's got to be a way out of this, right? And so I started looking for solutions. And that is what led me to all the work that I do now. So one thing followed the other. And it all started with finding a solution to a problem that I was facing. And then I worked on it. I saw that it worked. And I got myself certified and trained in it so that I could, kind of help others with it. So started with image consulting. And then what followed was NLP, hypnotherapy, embraining, multiple brain integration technique, pranic healing, AFT quantum healing, access bars, body whispering. So a whole lot of stuff that I do now.
So,
And
what is
of
the
course,
D? And of course,
sorry.
yes.
And of course, I say it's all tried and tested on me first.
Yeah. What is the D and E in ABCDE?
So D is the digital representation of you, so digital imprint. So how you represent yourself digitally, because
Okay.
we are living in a digital world right now, right? You have to have your digital presence. So how are you kind of putting yourself out there on the digital platform? And the E is your energetic hygiene.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And how do you
because
how
how
do you
do you?
measure the energetic hygiene?
So you do have instruments that can measure your energy, your aura, and stuff like that. But the point here is people are not really aware of it or they don't pay much attention to it. We know now, I mean, more and more people are talking about this. Science has also proven this fact that you do have an energy. Everything is energy. You also have an energy. Everything is energy. So it requires cleaning as well. So, for example, you have your physical body, right? And if you don't bathe, say for about 8 to 10 days, your skin gets dirty, it gets smelly, it gets stinky, and you got to clean it. Once a month, you got to trim your nails. Once a month, you got to groom yourself. At least you go to the salon to get a haircut. So you do that as a ritual
Yes.
to kind of maintain your appearance and grooming. Or if you don't shave, obviously you'd have an unkempt beard. So you do that. You take care of your physical self. You need to take care of it. You need to clean yourself. People do that physical cleaning. Mentally, they know, okay, I need to work on my mental. There's a lot of forums and a lot of talk that happens on mental health. They talk about emotional intelligence, that you need to be aware and aware of your emotions as well. But very few people talk about your energetic hygiene. So just as your physical body gets dirty, does as you have your mental stress and worries and anxieties, and you have things on mental health, just as you have emotional traumas, all these emotions, you need to manage them well. So do you have an energy body, which you also need to clean regularly. Because all these bodies that I just spoke of, the four bodies, which
Mm,
is the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the energy, they're all interconnected.
mm,
One affects the other, right? So if your emotional body is unclean, it starts affecting the other areas of your life as well.
mm.
So you also got to maintain your energetic hygiene, which forms part of your entire image, by the way. So these are the two additional elements that I've identified, and that makes up your entire image, so as to say.
Yeah. I just love playing with words just the way you do too. So I'm just thinking of two more alphabets, F and G, after A, B, C, D, E.
Why not? We could go all the way up to Z. you know.
So I'll just give you the two that is coming to my mind and see
Hmm.
if it comes to the personal branding or image transformation. One is
Sure.
finance, which is to think about how you're going to get an ROI on this image transformation. And if you're not thinking about it, and if you're just uh, concerned about everything with your communication and everything, there is no sense of direction of what you're doing all of this for. There has to be some kind of an ROI. And G is uh, giving. It's not just about you, it's about contributing to others. And
Contribution. Yes,
so
but thank you so much.
I was
Thank
just
you.
thinking.
No, no,
But
thank you. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to, add it. Thank
so
you.
when I was listening to your story and I asked you earlier, what was it that your 17 years prepared you for? How the 17 years prepared you? Listening to your story, I can think of one thing that really prepared you for the journey. Uh, that is your courage and capacity to say no to things.
No,
You
it
said
wasn't. It wasn't always. I was always a yes person, where
exactly.
I
You reached a
never had
point,
the courage.
so
Yeah.
you reached a point where from that point on, your life was about saying no to things that didn't serve you. So even after you finish your marketing, uh, traditionally you would have gone in and gotten a job because that's what you did. Your aunt paid for it, and but you had the courage. Just okay. So I did 2 years and I talked. So what? Uh, just because I got married and I have to live with this person? No. So you're instilled in yourself the courage to say no to things. And when people started accepting that a little bit more, you started seeing you could apply that to different areas of your life, and then you started choosing from a space of I'll do what I want to do.
Well, thank you for that insight. I never looked at it from that lens,
Mm.
and that perspective. But yeah, makes sense. I learned how to say no.
And also, what you were choosing, for example, there are so many things, but the only thing that popped out to you was something that connected to your journey.
Totally, yes. And that's why I say, that. For me, I mean, it could be different things for different people, but when you ask, you will receive signs.
Hmm.
So it's one of the laws of the universe, right? And that you ask and you shall receive. It's just a matter of paying attention to what the universe is giving you. So you ask and you shall always receive. And for me, the answers, for me personally, the answers have always come through books,
Hmm.
always and always. And if I may, I would like to share one very interesting incident over here. You know, um, so I was, when I came back and I was hearing a lot of stuff. You do hear rumors about you that you even yourself don't know. So all that was going on, and with all that was going on, books again came to my rescue, and I used to read again self-help books, right, at that point in time, to keep myself focused, to keep myself positive, to keep myself going in the direction that I had chosen. So I read books like The Secret and all the other self-help books that we had. They served me initially to a certain point in time, and they reached a point where all the different books that I was reading were telling me that more or less the same thing, but they weren't helping me grow further beyond a certain point. So I had reached that stagnation point where all the books, as good as they were, they served me to a certain point, but they couldn't take me beyond that. And there was this very, very strong feeling, Samir, like just a knowing, there's just a voice in my head that kept telling me that there's something more beyond these books that you need to know, Shagufta. And I was like, and I used to sit and cry because I don't know what that thing is that I'm supposed to be looking for. I have no clue what that is, what that voice in my head is telling me that I need to know. So what do I look for? I have no idea. Yeah. And I used to just sit and cry and pray. And I said, Allah, please tell me what is it that I need to know, because there's definitely something that I need to know, and I don't know what that is that I need to know. And around that time, my mom was undergoing. She was diagnosed with cancer. She had a mastectomy. It was breast cancer, and then she had to go through the cycles of chemotherapy as well. And so it was. I remember it was the third cycle. So there were 6 cycles of chemo, and uh, during the third cycle, for the fourth and fifth and sixth cycles, she needed another medicine to be injected. And I asked the doctor if there's any way I can get it a little cheaper. Of course, finances, for that reason. And she said, "Yeah, I'll just give you the number of this lady. Talk to her. She's the supplier. Probably you'll get it a little cheaper from her." So I called her. So she sent me the medicine. So for the next month, the fifth month, again, I needed it. And I called her. Now I'm just talking to this lady second time, just asking her for the medicines for my mother. And she took down my order, and out of the blue, she's saying, "Hey, look, do you like to read books?" I said, "Yes, I do." So probably, have you heard of the book called The Journey? I said, "No, I haven't." So it's a book, Journey by Dr. Brandon Bayes. I think you should just, probably it might help you. Just go and read it if you can. It was very unusual, right? This conversation that happened. But for me, it was a sign, right? So I immediately went and looked for the book. I got it. I started reading it that very night. I read late into the night. And as I was reading it, again, there were tears streaming down because it was like the book talking to me and giving me the information or the answer that I was looking for, right? So each time I've had a question, a book has come to give me some answer.
What is the
So
answer you received from that book?
the answer from that book was that you need to work on yourself so there was a lot of emotional baggage that was there that needed to be released. So what I was reading was working on the mental mind. It was the focus, the clarity, and stuff like that, your conscious um, ways of kind of managing yourself. But what I needed at that point was also the emotional release of all that my body had stored. So we do know now very clearly that everything that you go through is stored in your body, in cells, as information. And you need to work on that. So that was the message for me actually, that I need to work on my emotional body and release all the trauma, all the memories that were locked in my body if I had to move forward, all the beliefs that were locked into my body. And so I immediately, once I finished reading that book, I went online, I looked for where this was happening. And again, luckily for me, they had just started 6 months back. They had just had a workshop in India, Bangalore, the first one. The second was supposed to be happening in Mumbai, where I was living in August. And this was August 2014, August, September, around that time. And I read the book somewhere around March, April, immediately signed up for it. And it was a 3 day, and that was the very first workshop that I ever attended, a workshop on self development, on self healing, self journey, whatever you call it. So that was the first ever that I attended. It was a 3 day workshop. And life has never been the same since then, Samir. And interestingly, what happened? When I went for that 3 day workshop, I thought that all the years of the emotional, mental, physical abuse that I've had in the marriage, I would be dealing with that. In the 3 days, nothing of that showed up. Absolutely not even one incident. You
How
know,
come?
it didn't, because the program is designed in such a way that your body chooses what it wants to release first. So there are layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that you're not even aware of, but your body has locked it in somewhere. And if you don't release it, this is what actually manifests, as diseases and illnesses later in life. So it's not age. I actually look younger than what I was 10 years back, because I released all that stuff. I look better now. So
So
age is again a myth. You release stuff and you actually become and you feel better.
I'm curious to know now about the Shagufta before she got married.
What do you want to know?
So, what was it about her childhood that made her tolerate an abusive relationship?
Uh, Interesting, good question. The fear, I think. I was always a very timid, very shy girl. I could never stand up for myself, and I just didn't like the word or a situation of conflict. So for me, even standing up for myself, which is opposite of what's happening, is a situation of conflict,
Hmm.
right? So that is what was my programming. I was very timid. I was very shy. I had a lot of fears. I was a very obedient, so as to say, child. Very obedient in at home, in school. So these were my programming, my conditioning.
Hmm.
Um, the societal conditioning as well, right? That as a woman, you got to you got to adjust, you got to compromise, you got to sacrifice a lot. So these were a little bit of societal conditioning and programming that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what actually got released in a big way in the second time that I did the second module of the journey that I did. So the journey also has 6 programs, and I did completed all 6 of it after that. So in the first 3 days, nothing of that came. It was all memories from my childhood, that my father had once slapped me, or my friend had once taken a chocolate from me. So things that were forgotten, but my body had stored that memories, because for that young Shagufta, that little girl Shagufta, that probably was a traumatic experience, that a friend took away a chocolate from her.
Hmm.
So that was trauma for the child, which the body had locked in. The father screaming at her at one incident, that was trauma for little Shagufta. So that was locked in. I mean, of course, it was for my own good, but then the little child doesn't understand that, right?
Yeah.
The mind. so as to say, and which is also the basis of the work that I do with the parents, the Golding method, is that the mind doesn't understand. So when you're being programmed, the mind doesn't understand context, it just sees the content. So all those traumatic experiences which were locked into my body actually got released. And the beautiful part of this is that you can't decide what you want to work on. The body decides what it wants to work on for itself. It releases what it has to. And so
Tell
in
us
the yeah,
in the yeah, go on. In the second,
and in the second module that I did, that was again a 3-day module. On the second day of that workshop is when usually these processes last about 1 hour, 1 hour 30 minutes max. My process went on for 3.5 hours, where I purged nearly 4 to 5 times, and that was the release of a belief system that I was holding on to, a belief that as a woman you got to be a certain way, do certain things a certain way, and that is what got released. And after that there's been no stopping me. So there's nothing that stops me after that. So if I decide to do something, nothing will come in my way or any of this limitation. So yeah, it really worked for me.
share a little bit more about the Golding method, because now I see where the connection is coming from. But share more about why you picked up this modality, number one, and what it does for parents and for families.
uh, so when I was on this path of self development and I was learning about these various modalities, so like NLP and hypnotherapy, and I also came across this one modality which is called the Golding method. Now, it was called the sleep talk earlier, but it's now called the Golding method. And this is a fabulous tool for parents with kids between the ages of 0 to 12 years. And obviously, because I had by then identified that all my limitations and whatever I was going through was a result of my programming that happened earlier on, right? For example, one of my biggest fears was fear of talking to people. I couldn't even have a normal conversation with, unless I was very, very comfortable. So anybody knew, and I was very scared of even holding a normal conversation with them. And obviously, it led to people to believe that I'm a snob, and I'm very proud and I don't like to talk to people. But I was not snobbish. It was just a fear that was stopping me from talking to people. And later on, I identified that where that fear was coming from was when my mother had once told me, in a good way, of course, that be very careful when you talk to strangers. Now, you shouldn't be talking to them. But obviously, as a little child, it was for my safety, right? She meant good there. But like I said, the mind doesn't understand the context, it just understands content, especially a young child's mind where the programming is actually going on. So there are no filters there. The conscious mind doesn't have the rational or the analytical ability to a certain age. And so everything is very without any filters, it just goes in and becomes part of your programming. So it literally became a part of my programming where even after I grew up, that stayed in my as my program where I'm not supposed to be talking to strangers, which is what happens when we talk of fears and limitations and anything that stops you from moving forward. And we see that, don't we, Samir? Because some people are, you know, swimmers, champion swimmers, they cross the Atlantic, and some people are so scared to even dip their feet in water. Why is that so?
Yeah. Uh, so I'm wondering, parents who don't go through the Golding method might be even uh, so conscious about everything that they say, and still they might make a mistake because the intent is great, the content is the right one, but the
Yes,
content can be misinterpreted.
yes. Misinterpreted by the mind, because at that point in time, this is what you actually want, right? You don't want the child to be talking to strangers. which worked. But then later on, it stayed in as the programming.
Hmm.
So then, there's no way. So, as a parent, there are things that you tell your children, even with a good intent. And sometimes you also tend to tell them things that you don't mean so many times. Sometimes when you are stressed or angry about certain things or just worried or something has happened with something at work, and then you just come and kind of, blurt out things to your children without even meaning them. But for the child, it's everything is going inside,
So,
unfiltered.
so is the method something like where you give more context while they are sleeping and then just uh, affirm into their minds?
No, so you're not explaining anything. You're not giving the context of the reasoning, anything. So let me explain how this works very simply. So we all use laptops,
Yeah.
computers, right? And no matter what your brand or make is, or no matter what the configuration, it may be a basic model, it may be a high end model. There is the hardware, and what actually runs it is the software that you feed in.
Yes.
And there are different softwares that perform different functions. So there's not one software that does everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when there is a bug or there's a virus, then the system doesn't perform or system crashes,
Yes.
right? And then when that happens, you need to debug the system, reboot it, put an antivirus software, clean the softwares, put a firewall so that no further attacks happen. And even in the case that everything is going good and there's nothing, there are always software updates which are available, which you do update and upgrade your softwares for better level of functioning. We do
Hmm.
that all the time with our laptops, with our phones, all the time. Every now and then there's a system upgrade. We do that. So what the Golding method really does is exactly the same. It acts like an antivirus software. So if there's unwanted stuff that is entered into the programming of the mind of the child, it clears that. It puts a firewall which kind of protects also the child from the unwanted stuff, and it also acts like a system upgrade. So basically, you are developing self confidence, self awareness, self esteem in a child, self worth in a child. And when those things happen, they're better able to deal with whatever situation they are faced with.
Hmm.
And this has been going on for the last 49 years. So the Goling method started about 49 years back. And there has been thousands and thousands of case studies how the method has actually transformed the lives of people, children who had speech disorders, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, separation anxiety, be it bedwetting, even cases of bullying, be it in school or be it at home. So now they have the courage to stand up and raise their voices against whatever is happening, or at least bring it to the attention of the authorities.
And what you do is you work with the parents, not with the children, right?
Not at all. Not at all. This is what I love about the program, is that I don't need to meet the child at all. It's the parent who works with the children. So it also strengthens and deepens the bond between the parent and the child. And because the parents are the primary caretakers and influencers in a child's life in the initial years, whatever they say is very readily accepted by the mind of the child.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's very safe, ethical, very simple, done in the comfort of your home. Just takes about 3 to 4 minutes every night, with changes that actually last a lifetime.
And how long should the parent do this with the child?
So it's divided into phases. So the entire program is a three-phase program. So there's a phase one, phase two, and phase three. And the entire phase would take anywhere between, I would say, 10 months to a year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Where the parent is working on the child every single day
every single day. Yes.
for a whole
But
year.
it's for a whole. approximately 10 months to a year, with
Yeah.
all the three phases. And but it's done at your home when the child is sleeping. So there's absolutely no very easy. Just takes about 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes max. That's all you need.
What happens after the age of 12? Why does it not work?
Because by then you're already programmed. So your maximum programming, 90% of it happens up till the age of 7 to 8 years. 8 years is where the maximum programming is happening. From 8 to 12, another, I would say, another 10 to 12%. But by the time you are 12, you are completely programmed. So in the initial years, that's why it's called the pregnancy to the puberty program, because it starts from in utero. The first sense to develop is the sense of hearing. Children can hear. They're also connected to the mother, so they're even aware of the mother's emotions. There's information that's passed on genetically as well. So your cells store memory. Remember the journey? So my body had some stored memories. So these memories are also passed on. So there's a lot of information that's being passed on, even genetically, because memories are stored in the cells, and if they are not released, you're also passing it on to your future generations. So when you work on yourself, you're not only serving you, you're serving your future generations as well. Yeah, if it makes sense.
Has anyone
So
developed a program where they can work on their spouses in this way?
a lot of people are asking. I wish there was a way, but unfortunately, no. Uh, you can only work on yourself because but once you become an adult, that's where your your free will kicks in,
Hmm.
your choices for yourself, and each one has the right to make the choices for themselves, and you cannot choose for another. So as much as I see things happening with my brother, with my sister, with my spouse, as much as I want to help them change those things, as much as I know that there is a way to change these things, I cannot do it unless they choose it for themselves. And that's what also happens when a child becomes 12. So that's the age of puberty, right? When the children are now from children becoming teenagers. And you see a lot of conflict happening between or differences between parents and kids who are teenagers because now they're becoming individuals, individuals capable of taking their own decisions, individuals capable of their own thinking, individuals having a free will and choices, which may not be same as what the parents want for them.
How long have you been doing this?
Since 2017, so it's been 6 years. When I saw that it was making a lot of difference in the few parents or the children that I was working with, I also trained to become a consultant. So I'm India's only, and UAE is not first, but India's first, and UAE is and India's only licensed Golding Method trainer. But I
So
can teach people.
can you share one success story of yours that you're very passionate about, that you worked on this and this happened, a personal
Yes,
journey? Yeah.
yes, for sure. So without stating names for the sake of confidentiality, there was this, there have been many other cases, but this one case is particularly very dear to me because a parent with a child of 6, 7 years, and this child is scared of walking. She doesn't walk on her own. So she only walks holding, she will only walk when somebody is holding her, or she'll only walk when there's some support to hold and walk. And she's almost 6, 7 years now. And the parents have tried everything. They've been to all doctors, they've tried all medicines, they've tried all methods. Nothing has worked. And they've spent thousands of dirhams on, you know, getting to see how they can get it. And some doctors even said, oh, probably there's a genetic mutation, probably because of which she's not done it. But obviously it was some kind of fear that was stopping her, or maybe something to do. And anyways, because the golden method even works on all levels, right? The physical, mental, emotional, everything. And with the golden method, the child started walking within 1 week of starting the process on her. So yeah, this is just one case study.
And what made it happen?
The method, it
The
just
process.
works. The process, it just works magically because it works at the programming level, right?
Mm.
Yeah, and there's no way of saying what is gotten into the mind, because you see there are so many things that's going around. So right from the time that you are in utero, you can hear, right? The sense of hearing is already developed. So whatever is going around in the environment, whether the mother is watching a movie or there's some conversation going on, once the child is born, again, everything that's going on around them, even if you're taking your child to the park or to the cinema or to the playground, and if there's another parent who's talking to their children, there's no context, there's only content that's going in unfiltered. So it could be coming from anywhere, these viruses and bugs. There's no way of saying where it's coming from. It could be information that's passed on genetically, for all you know,
Yeah.
some fears. So yeah,
So,
this works beautifully. Yeah,
so what I'm seeing is you're working on image transformation right from the age of 0
you
on people.
actually are. Whether you realize it or not, you actually are. And so when, again, like, who's image transformation for? It's for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
You all carry image, you all have these bodies. Each one of you have a physical, mental, emotional energy body, and you got to be working on it
I just look at
constantly.
the time and realize it's been 1 hour since we've been talking, and I just can't believe it's there's so much contact with you always. Beautiful. Shaguftha, if you have one message, first of all, how do people reach out to you and how do they connect with you and see all the things that you offer?
LinkedIn is one way. I think I'm most active on LinkedIn. I'm not so active on social media as an Insta. I do have an Instagram page, but I'm not very active there. Uh, I do have a page called Change with Renee where I post stuff very, very rarely, though. But the best way to reach out to me is on a LinkedIn message, and I'll definitely respond.
And there is only
Yeah,
one Shaguftha Patel with an F and a T extra, I think, right?
yes, there's only one. Like how we all are individuals, that there's only one of Samir and there's only one of everyone, even though we are like 8 billion people. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's one of each one with our own unique individualities. Yes,
And there is, I just realized we haven't even spoken about the birth of your third child, the Aspire magazine.
aspire. Yes, we haven't. But that maybe is a conversation for another day.
Yeah, lovely. Uh, I'll share with you one takeaway that I have listening to you today, and for anyone out there who is uh, struggling or feeling challenged or is not stepping into courage to do what is, causing the fear. The one message that I'm really taking away from you in this conversation today is start working on yourself before you start working with others.
Very important. Yes, and
Yeah,
that's the only key, the most
yeah,
important key. So a lot of people would have desires and they know what they want for themselves. And what I notice is that they're not willing to work on themselves because they see it as an expense. They don't see it as an investment in themselves.
yeah,
The only reason why I've been able to accelerate my growth, in just in a span of 10, 12 years, the amount of work that I've done, as opposed to someone, my friends who started immediately after school working, and the amount of growth or the accelerated growth I've had is just because I've worked on myself.
mm,
I said there's no escaping it. So there's no shortcut to it. You have to work on yourself to make things happen.
beautiful. Thank you so much, Shagafta. It's been a wonderful pleasure. There's one message here from Sangeeta Chima. She has written from the Amity Principle. She has mentioned, I just saw this. All right.
Oh, so nice. Thank you, Sangeeta. Yeah.
Any parting message that you want to close this conversation with, apart from everything that you've already said? Anything else for
No,
the
I
audience?
think it's just all the things that if I have to sum it all up in like one or two lines, it's again the same thing. You can't serve from an empty bowl, and you're always a work in progress. And there's this one quote from Bob Dylan, that springs to my mind now, and he says that the minute you stop growing is the moment you start dying. So what he really means is that you've constantly got to be working on yourself. The minute you stop growing or you stop working is the moment you start dying.
Absolutely. Totally agree and resonate with that.
Yeah.
With that, till we have another conversation, till we meet once again, I wish you a great day ahead.
Thank you so much, Samir, and a great day to everyone as well.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Take care.